Haney's performance in itself, did he get lulled into a situation where he thinks, I've got to go and clean this, I'm going to knock him out now?
Yeah. All of a sudden, your mindset changes and you make one little fundamental mistake and you pay for it.
Do you think himself?
No, he didn't.
He didn't, did he? I would like to say he did.
Yeah,
but he didn't. Do you think that's about corruption or competency?
I would like to say, incompetence. I would like to say.
Welcome to episode 70 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. We're going to start this week. I'm going to ask you how you are, Spence, and feign interest.
I'm glad you asked me, Simon. But yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Well, I find myself in an unhappy frame of mind, if I'm entirely honest.
Talk to me.
Because I had big aspirations to go to the May 25 fight between Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall.
Yep.
And I was bringing Noel Gallagher with me, who's now can't go because he's bragging about his scabby team playing in the FA Cup final. And I've committed to going to Theo Pafitas' daughter's wedding. So I can't go.
Right.
So I'm going to miss this bloody good fight.
I'll go.
You go for me.
I'll
you be my eyes and ears.
I'll go, mate, and I'll make sure that, we're representing.
I'm sad that I'm going to miss it because I think it's going to be a real spectacle.
Absolutely.
But let's kick off this show with, I think, the only place to start, really, which is Ryan Garcia. Mm-hmm. And the Devin Haney fight. And I have to say, I have myself a told you so moment. Because I didn't subscribe, didn't buy into it in my very intuitive ways, that all of this social media stuff where Ryan Garcia was having mental breakdowns and challenges, I didn't think there was a lot of legitimacy around it. I thought there was playing with Devin Haney. When I saw, and I think I texted you on the weekend when we saw the weigh-in and he's drinking, I didn't think it was beer in there. And so it's proven to be. And the fella bet $2 million on himself, Garcia,
and won 12.
And wins 12. so the $1.5 million that he threw away by being 3.5 pounds overweight for the fight doesn't seem to make any difference. But you commented on the fight.
Yeah.
What did you make of it all?
Well, firstly, talking about that weight situation and the build up to it, the erratic behaviour.
Yeah.
I'd like to address that because I did buy into that a little bit, and I said to you, Simon, I'm a little bit concerned about this. God forbid something happens, it books boxing into disrepute. It's not a good look. It was a stroke of genius what he done. He come in at 3.5 pounds overweight.
What do you think to that first?
Well, he says he missed the weight, and so he missed the weight.
It's a big miss, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's probably done it purposely.
Yeah.
He's done it purposely. He knows what he's doing. 3.5 pounds for guys that have got to strip the weight is a hell of a lot of weight, right? And you could see that in the performance where he clearly looked a weight division, 2 weight divisions bigger. But Haney always puts on a lot of weight after weighing in as well. But Haney and Bill Haney, his dad, accepted the forfeit. They took the 1.5 million. So the fight is on. So what do I make of it? It's a stroke of genius by Garcia because he was getting all the advantages his way, right? So he done that. He knew what he was doing. He paid the forfeit. Devin Haney accepted it, so we've got a fight. So we can't say now he's accepted the fight.
I mean, he had the conditionality in his contract, didn't he? That a pound overweight costs 500,000 per pound, right? But do you think that he had the opportunity to turn the fight down on the basis that he was so much overweight? Because it did create material. He did.
He did have the opportunity, and the mad thing is, they didn't then say to him, "I want to check weight on Saturday so that you're only XYZ over," as opposed to. They didn't even put that in there because they did not want to rock the boat. They wanted the fight to go ahead. So they accepted everything that was there. That's down to them. We've got a fight, it was.
It also plays into...
But you would have just said, Simon, right, okay, you're 3.5 pounds over, but I do not want you more than 10 pounds over on the day of the fight. Weigh in Saturday, 11 o'clock, whatever it is. And that's how it is. But for some weird reason, they didn't.
Well, I suppose it plays into the overarching narrative that they think he's a basket case. And that he's gone in there mentally deranged or detached or struggling or dealing with all kinds of challenges. And now he can't even get to weights, and he walks on the stage and is drinking a beer. This kid's out of control. This is going to be an easy night's work for us. What did you make of Haney's performance then in response to the fact that Garcia, as we now think, has played possum, has created a narrative that he's not together, so he's subsequently going to be together on Fight Night. He's going to be even worse. But Haney's performance in itself, did he get lulled into a situation where he thinks, I've got to go and clean his. I'm going to knock him out now as a result of it.
No,
because he's not a big punch, not a big knockout motion.
Do you know what happened? No, he's not. I think that you look at Ryan Garcia, 24 out of his 24 victories, he did 20 of those by the way of KO. We know he's heavy-handed, especially with the left hook. He went out there and he nailed Haney early in the first round. First minute of the first round, he caught him, so he was cold as well. He was a faded jab, check hook, hit him, and he was hurt badly. He done well to survive the round. He never recovered from that, Simon. So like people were talking about Haney's performance, and you know, like, he just never got himself back together. You know, although he was winning the rounds after that, he started building some rounds up. But he was every time he got hit, you could see him getting hurt. Like even he got floored in the 7th, he got floored in the 10th, floored in the 11th. But in between that as well, he was getting hurt when he was getting hit with shots. And I think that but the damage was done in the first round.
Do you think that there's no possibility? I mean, fighters recover. You know this more than I will clearly know. That you don't think he cleared his head or recovered within the confines, because he was throwing shots that are not really associated with Devin Haney. He's trying to hook against the hooker and getting caught more often than not every time he does it. So it's completely out of Devin Haney's character to fight the way he did.
Look, when you look at comparisons of him and Floyd Mayweather, and is he as good as Mayweather technically, defensively? The answer to that is no. We saw that in that contest, but what did I make of it? I just don't think he recovered. I think that first hook that he got hit with in that first round, it's clearly fogged his head, and his game plan sort of went out. There was an air of desperation around some of the work that he was doing, and when he was getting hit, and the broken jaw as well, by the way, you could see that the jaw was swollen up badly as well. Put all those things, you know, add all those things into the equation, and you get a performance like that. So I just think that, you know, it never went right from him right from the opening bell, and I think tactically it went out the window. Air of desperation. He started chasing the fight. He doesn't normally do that. He's normally a good counter puncher. We expected Ryan Garcia to be the one on the front foot. Garcia was the one that was actually boxing on the back foot. So then Haney's chasing. He's boxing out of his comfort zone, and by doing that, he's going into shots, and he was getting caught with shots. So it was the perfect game plan by Ryan Garcia and his team. The only thing I didn't like was, did you see that shoulder roll thing that he was doing? I mean, it was absolutely terrible. He was losing eye contacts and all sorts, but look, it worked for him still.
Didn't seem to affect him, did it?
No, it didn't.
It's interesting.
But it was the game plan from Ryan Garcia. He made Devin Haney chase him because of the knockdown. Egos get into it and whatnot. His head had gone. I think it was a perfect game plan from Garcia.
It seems to have been. It's interesting, isn't it? Here's a controversial statement that people will bite on. Isn't it interesting that Devin Haney and Bernard Hopkins have both made observations about, I'm not going to get beat by no white boy?
Yes, absolutely.
Which I think is an appalling thing to say, because if it was on the other way, if a white fighter had said that, there'd be absolute outrage. So there's a part of me that deeply admires Devin Haney, because I think he's a great fighter. I think he was lucky against Lomachenko. But notwithstanding that, I think he's a great fighter, and his performance against Progress, I thought, was a really good perforance, brilliant performance. But you can't go around saying that sort of shit. And I'm glad that he lost as a result of that.
The first time I saw that actually was when you showed me that, and it was that's concerning, that, because like there's a line and we get it and we know they're trying to sell fights, etc. You do not cross that line, like you say. Like if it had been the other way,
there'd be outrage. And you know, the less that we make people's colour centre of a conversation, the better society will be. We constantly live in this world where people are talking about, don't judge me by the colour of my skin, but the content of my character. I think people learn lessons from things like that, and it seems to backfire, because Bernard Hopkins said it about Joe Calzaghe, and this fella Devin Haney said it about Ryan Garcia. It's interesting with Garcia, because I'm not sure that a lot of us, and certainly better voices than mine, notably yours and Carl Froch, really questioned Garcia after the Tank Davis fight. Not because Tank Davis isn't an elite fighter, but because of the fact that Garcia, in your perception and in Carl's perception and other voices, could have got up.
Absolutely.
And didn't seem to
still
want
believe
to.
That. Still believe that now. Like, you know, forget what's happened in this contest. You go back to that fight, rewind 2 fights for Garcia, and you look at that. I'm looking at him. The referee's counting 4, 5. He's looking at the referee. He's there. I know when you get hit with those body shots, you are like, I've seen fighters rolling around before. Castillo was one of them. What you see him going down, rolling around, getting up, and still fighting. But you go, there was no real evidence that he could not climb up from that. And
so he's
being in that position, and I've been there before. I know you can get up from them.
So he's dispelled a myth about him now.
Absolutely,
and he's now given a proof of concept that what people thought about him was he's not just a social media phenomenon, who knows how to use social media and has known how to use it in this instance,
mate,
because
this is genius.
He's used it as a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you've got to look at this and say maybe a few fighters are going to look at social media now as even more of a weapon based upon.
But you saw Devin Haney in the build-up to this one, actually, Simon, and you saw him when they were having interviews, sit-down interviews, etc., going, is this guy, what, like, he didn't know how to take him. He clearly got in his head, you know, this game is, you know, 80% psychological, and he got in his head, so he was going in the ring thinking, what is going on here? First round, boom, he gets tagged.
But the power of social media and his utilisation of it. So now we've got a different picture in our head of Garcia. We had a real picture of him. We saw him demolish Luke Campbell, and we saw this superstar, and then we felt about other challenges in his life, and then we saw what we felt was a potential swallow against Tank Davis. We've now seen him beat one of the best fighters in the division, and someone that's coming with a big reputation. Where does he go next?
Yeah, interesting.
Because everyone's talking about I mean, there's some for Oscar De La Hoya. This is manna from heaven, because he snubbed his nose at the Saudis, isn't he?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now he's got Canelo.
Yeah.
And he's got a huge fight. If Canelo wins his fight, he's still got the keys to the castle. And now he's got Garcia.
Yeah. Now he's got Garcia. Absolutely.
So it's manna from heaven. But where do you think he goes?
It's an interesting one, because he's got that opportunity now to go pretty much where he wants to go. Yeah.
Do you think he fights at 147?
He may go at 147. Yeah. You know, there's huge fights up there. Obviously, Terence Crawford is the main man.
Yeah.
You know, that is a fight made in heaven for him. Yeah. Yeah. So I think he moves up to 147, if I'm honest. I'm not sure that he can make it to 140 now. Well, from on the evidence of what we've
And there's a world of possibility
and
there.
And there's a world of possibilities up there for him. But
I mean, you can hear Conor Benn in the background shouting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have done already, haven't we? We've seen it already. Yeah. But listen, now he's the golden boy now. He's the one that people want to go to. He's the go-to because of his social media presence. The box office numbers were, you know, out of control, insane. And so he's the go-to. Like, that's what it's all about.
What about Haney? What's he going to do here?
It's a tough rebuild, you know. It's a really tough rebuild for Haney. I
mean, there is a school of thought that despite all the build-up of Haney, he was lucky against Lomachenko. I don't think he won that fight.
Yeah.
Now he's been done in this fight.
There's an argument he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
His record doesn't say that, but, you know.
Yeah, but well, look, you look at the pro-grade performance, and you go, that was sensational. So, you know, you've got to give him, like, look, all right, he's lost a fight. He got caught cold early, and that I put that down to his performance, the fact that he got caught and he did not really recover. So it's not like, oh, it's ended. There's still huge fights out there for him, but it's a tough rebuild, because he now has to go into a fight. In my option, I think he has to go into a serious fight straight away off the back of that. Forget all this warm-up stuff and whatnot. He needs to put himself straight back in the mix. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, see where he goes from that.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because we know, when you think going back to the psychological outmaneuvering that Garcia did, it's the same as Steve Collins did with Chris Eubank Sr., isn't it? Convincing him that he's got headphones in, telling the world he can't be beaten.
Yeah.
Right? And ultimately the psychological adjustment it makes in the other person, because part of the reasons why he might have been caught cold is because he's thinking that I've got an easy night's work ahead of me.
100%. He come out there, and that's what it is. You know, all the talk is about Haney being, you know, is he the guy to take over from Floyd Mayweather? Is he the next Floyd Mayweather? Is he better than Mayweather? You go, like, when you're getting put on that sort of level, and you know it can go to your head a little bit, and you look at the build up with Garcia and the question marks surrounding him, even coming off the Gervonta Davis defeat, like you say, you go, all of a sudden your mindset changes, and you make one little fundamental mistake and you pay for it.
You want to price into the fans' thinking, because I don't buy into the nonsense that Tyson Fury is doing about keeping on telling Alexander Usyk he's too small, he can't win. But there is something in the psychological preparedness of people when they think they've got a different fighter on their hands than the one they've got. I mean, Fury knows what he's got with Usyk. Usyk knows what he's got with Fury. But Collins was able to convince Eubank Sr. of a certain thing.
Mind games.
But mind games to me are often is a load of old nonsense. But in this instance, when you can convince somebody that you're not at the reservation anymore, it really does give you an opportunity.
That's genius, Simon. Like you say, there's mind games, and then there's ones where they go to the next level where even like, look,
it takes a genius to see through it.
Yeah.
What do you make of the two fathers' behaviour? Right, I'll tell you why. Because you've got Bill Haney before the fight now looking a little bit like a bit of a wally, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some of the things he talked about, and it was a bit unnecessary.
Did you see Garcia's?
Well, that's why I'm saying it's a tale of two fathers, because you've got you got one father before the fight in a rather unpalatable fashion talking about how he's going to kill.
Bill's got egg on his face, that's for sure. Like because of this whole build up and everything else, and you know the way that he was talking, and it was sort of they just crossed the line with it. Really, do you know what I mean? It was all. It went a little bit too far, but. Bill's, you know, he's got egg on his face now, and you look at Ryan Garcia's father and with Eddie Hearn when he was doing the interview.
What was all that about?
Well, I thought it's just brilliant, and it's obviously his emotions are really high. His son's just won this fight, all this stuff in the build-up beforehand, and I mean, he just turned on Eddie, didn't he? Just like
fair play to Eddie. He was having none of it, was he?
No,
I thought fair play to you. You know, and
then Eddie went into fight mode. You see him change. He's like, I don't know what Garcia's dad's name was. But he's like, oh, well done. You know, Ryan done well. And
do you think himself?
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
I
would like to say he did.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
Sorry, mate. No, he went into fight mode. Bang. Yeah, no, it was good.
By the way, just an aside. I never said that the only thing Anthony Joshua is fighting for is money. I see one of these gossy little snot gobbling call out from underneath the rock digital channels Simon, saying that I have said about Anthony Joshua's only fighting for money. So Eddie's answering a question about Simon Jordan said, and he's going, well, he hasn't spoken to Anthony. I never said that he was fighting for money because they're all fighting for money because it's called prize fighting.
We know what it is now. We know what it is, and we've had this problem with the Saudi situation and whatnot, and Tyson Fury. The YouTubers pick out one word from what you say. I'll feed off that and I'll change it around a little bit and make it sound.
Gets on my nerves, Spencer.
Yeah, so I get it, Simon.
Taking things out of context, getting people banned.
But no, you did not say that. You did not say it. You said to me, it's for money. It's for money, and I said, no, it's not only for money. I think it's this and it's
no,
that.
I said a big component part of it is the opportunity that exists now because Anthony.
There you go.
What I said was he ain't going to walk away now because look at the scale of the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a fair observation. If Anthony Joshua was fighting for £5 million, I don't think he'd be quite as motivated. But I still think that the heavyweight championship is his primary aspiration. But I just wanted to clear that up because it gets on my bloody nerves when people misrepresent what's being said and take it out of context.
Take the positive out of this.
I know.
Take the positive.
It's only worse than people talking about
these people are watching our show to get their content to ask people. Take the positive from that.
Maybe.
What does that mean? Does that mean we're sort of like...
I would be flattered if I felt that these people had any intellectual capacity to understand what we're saying, but they're not.
I struggle.
They're misrepresenting, and I don't like it. I don't mind. I'm deeply flattered by you clowns and your 7 views. Right. Moving on to my favourite administrator, the person that really holds up the standards of boxing, Mauricio Sulaiman.
Yes.
The king of the I don't make mandatory challenges happen every now and again.
Yeah.
And the belts for the Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight, but there's no belt for it. There's a belt, a WBC belt. Right? He said something constructive and useful, and I think meaningful the other day, and especially.
I disagree, by the way.
Well, let's get into it for a second, and you can tell me what you disagree with.
Yeah.
But he talked about the needing to really focus again on the way that fights are scored. And I know that you've got a wild hair up your arse rather than on your head about
no, I've got a couple of them on my head.
About a fight that happened on the weekend and some of the scoring that went on between Sean McComb and Arnold Barbosa.
Yeah.
But Sulaiman's talking about changes that are required. He's talking about, amongst other things, noise cancelling headphones so people can be zoned in. He's talking about 6 judges.
Yeah.
And we've had Ben Shalom before come on here and talk about, I know it's an expansion, but VAR for boxing. What do you think about what he said there? Given the fact you just told me from the outset you don't agree with it.
Yeah, no. Look, I agree with that there needs to be change. I do agree with that. But also, if you look deeper into it and you look at these scorecards and you go, look, let's use that Barbosa fight as an example. You go, McComb with one judge won it. Was it 92?
98, 92
98,
to McComb.
92
96,
to McComb.
94 Barbosa, and then 97, 93 Barbosa.
Right, so 91% of the viewing audience there thought that McComb won that fight, which was not very difficult to see. If you give Barbosa 2 rounds, you were probably being generous. There was only one clear winner there. So for the judges, the judge goes 97, 93, was it, the other way?
97, 93 Barbosa, 96, 94 Barbosa, 98, 92
Right,
McComb.
so those 2 judges, I think that it's not about pulling them in and asking them how they come with that scoring. It's plainly obvious to see that this is what's wrong with boxing. It's plainly obvious to see who won that fight. So you're coming up and you're going 3 or 4 rounds the other way. I go, it's not about you need noise cancelling headphones or whatever. You go, the guy he's not fit for purpose.
Do you think
he's not fit for purpose?
Do you think that's about...
Should be sacked.
Do you think that's about corruption or competency?
I would like to say, incompetence. I would like to say.
Yeah.
I would like to say that.
Right.
I really would, because I don't want to talk about corruption in the sport that I love so much. So I go, it's incompetence, right? So that guy, don't pull him up and ask him how he's come up with that score. Say, you're not fit for purpose. See you, mate. And if they do that, no, give him a chance. And, you know, one warning, one strike and you're out.
Yeah.
If you're coming up, because we've seen far too much of it now, there's no way McComb lost that fight. So coming up with like a 90, 97, 93 the other way, you go, that guy's not fit for purpose. Get rid of him, done. And if they do that, then I think that the scoring may change a little bit. Because for me, I mean, that was a disgrace.
Yeah.
That was a disgrace. Even the judge that scored, what was it, 114, 114, or was it 114, 114? Even on the Haney fight.
Right.
Yeah, even that judge, I go, wait, what are you looking at, mate? There was only one winner there. Garcia won the fight. There's 3 knockdowns.
Do you think, though, hearing someone, with all seriousness to him, with the presence and the profile of Suleiman looking at it, whether you agree with the principles of noise cancelling headphones have any real validity and merit, are you comforted by the fact that influential people are talking about controversial decisions?
They recognise it.
And needing to, and wanting to address them and find some solutions?
Absolutely, very comforted that is the fact, because they are recognising that we have a problem, a huge problem, you know, with the scoring, with the judging, and it does need it. But I just don't think that we need 6 judges. I don't think we need noise cancelling. Think that we need VAR, or it might be a good backup. But I just think that it's come down to the judging, and the judges just need looking at. Absolutely, you know, and I just think that they're being too slack on them, because we're talking about fighters' livelihoods, you know, their welfare.
But you're also talking about the integrity of the sport.
Integrity of the sport,
and of course,
that's right.
The sport's got lots of challenges, whether people are going to start looking at the health issues. It doesn't.
How would you change it, by the way? I mean, I mean, out of all the things that we've said there, the silencing, the 6 judges.
Well, I think they're value added, because I think people do get influenced by background noise, and I do think that people would suggest that in the Josh Taylor-Jack Catterall fight, that some of the presence and the proximity of a fight in Scotland might have enhanced the judge's experience one way or the other. So if you take some of that background noise out, I do think there's an element of viewing where you see the fight from. So if you've got more positions, judges in different positions, you see the fight differently. And I do think there should be some sort of consistency and continuity, so that across all of the different sanctioning bodies, all the different belts, so that people can see clearly that the subjectivity of what one person likes and another person likes doesn't come into play. And I do think technology should form part of it. Why could boxing be anything different from any other sport?
There you go. Yeah.
So I think all of those...
Do you think VAR is a good idea?
Some form of digital interaction that enables people, and whether that's very quick replays that people can adjudicate from, or whether there's some other methodology that technology can be utilised for, I don't think you should rule it out. I think everything should be put into the equation to get an outcome that satisfies people, so that we see less and less of these controversial decisions that to some extent bring, whilst it's great for conversation pieces and whilst it keeps the engine of the media running whilst big fights aren't happening, it's not an ideal. It's not an ideal. So I think that given that the Saudis, and you guess who will be at the front of it? Probably the Saudis.
Yeah.
Because they'll look at it from the point of view of saying, we want to make sure that every fight that happens in Saudi doesn't get steeped in any kind of controversy.
Well, they were talking about more judges, weren't they? Well, they're talking about 5 judges at the Fury versus Usyk fight. That's what they wanted to do. I think Mauricio Suleiman, just to stop any controversy or whatever. So look, he's on the right page anyway. He's looking, he's looking at it as we are as well. I think for the health of the sport moving forward, something does need to change. That is for sure.
Well, let's watch that space. Are we expecting an announcement today? At some point today this week,
I believe we
Richard Riakporhe.
Yeah,
and Chris
we are
Billam-Smith.
definitely.
And you understand that to be what? Sellers Park?
I understand it to be, yeah.
Because it's not going to be the Vitalities. I think Chris Billam-Smith.
No, it's Sellers Park, yeah.
Yeah. That'd be
June the 15th.
Very good. That'd be a good fight.
Know a little bit inside.
Who have you got for that?
Riakporhe.
Yeah, me too. But and Chris Billam-Smith.
Yeah, but is your why? For what reasons is that? Is it because he's a Palace fan, or
probably? It might be a little bit of that. But I also just think he's got the tools. I think that what we saw in the previous fight against Masternak, that Chris Billam-Smith was in, was I thought Chris would shine in that fight.
Yeah.
Because I think he's now a world champion, and he had to go through the trenches there.
I agree.
And I think that
really did.
Yeah, he did. And I think he did really well, and the emotion of defending his belt in front of his home fans was a big thing and creates its own pressure. But I think Riakporhe, hits harder than Masternak, and I think he's potentially more. And he's beaten him once before already.
Yeah, no, it was. Do you know what? I was at that fight. I was working on that fight, and that was an absolute barnstormer. And I'm expecting the same again, because one thing you say about Chris Billam-Smith, I think that he's proven with that. You know, he's done it with Lawrence Cody and Masternak.
He can dig him.
You go, oh, he can go through the trenches. That guy, he can weather the storm. That is for sure. Yeah. So you can never write him off. I mean, it's a fantastic fight.
It's a great,
fantastic fight.
I mean, there is a question about when it's being scheduled, because it's, you know, sort of right on the same time as the Euros. But then again,
June the 15th today.
Yeah, but then again, you know, you can always find something like, you know, we've got the FA Cup final on, but then again, I suppose it's a sports crowd that leads the FA Cup final for the Josh Taylor, Jack Catchell fight. But then again, they'll follow on from the FA Cup final to watching the boxing in the evening. Who knows? Listen, last week we saw, and we discussed it, and we can just perhaps touch upon it lightly again, but more from the point of view of what we saw in the press conferences. We had the Matchroom 5 versus Queensbury 5, and I know that they're very excited by it. And I spoke to Frank briefly this week, because I'm going to get him to buy me lunch. Well, I'm going to try and get him to buy me lunch. Because I'm writing a new book, Spence. Have I told you?
Yeah, you have, mate.
And I'm writing a chapter about boxing.
When are we going to go for lunch? I'm obviously in that book.
Well, I don't need you for lunch, actually. You can run around and get me a few takeaways when I want, but not for lunch. Not a proper meal.
No, if you want a proper sit down with me, it's going to cost you lunch.
Spence, if I take you out for lunch, you're going to bring a bib with you, right? We're going to have to get a high chair. Right? How am I going to go to a decent restaurant? Right?
I'll leave the turtleneck. I won't wear the turtleneck.
But I'm going to go. I don't want a turtleneck. I'm going to go because I wanted to get some insight in writing. And I know before people say it, you can't write a chapter on boxing because it'd be a blank page. That's why I'm going out for lunch with Frank. Yes, I can get some knowledge. Right? But more importantly, the response from the 5v5 press conference. What did you make of it? What did you take away from it? What were your thoughts about it?
I liked it.
You forecast some of the fights. They are what you thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I liked it. Well, I think we pretty much picked all the fights, didn't we?
You had, on the 5v5, you had a told you so moments. This props expression that you educated me with, right? You get plenty now because you got, I think, a lot of abuse. And I know that me and my friends shouldn't have done it on social media, but we got together in a room and it just happens sometimes, you know. But in seriousness, you forecast a lot of these outcomes, and you got a lot of for it, and people totally don't.
I got a lot of hate, and it was that I told you so moment.
Don't use the word hate. Don't use the word hate.
Listen, I'm not hating. I don't mind. You can send me back the love. That's fine. But it was that I told you so moment, correct? So yeah, I was right all along with the fights that were happening, especially the Deontay Wilder Zhang.
You could be a bit more graceful.
The Zhang one. That one was like, that was one that no one see coming, but I sort of knew that was going to happen.
It was like working with a genius.
Thank you, Simon.
Pulling something out of the air that no one else sees.
What is this?
It's one of those moments.
71st show? Is it 71st?
70. That's why I introduced it as Welcome to Episode 70.
Oh, right. I wasn't listening to you. I was thinking about what I was going to say.
Crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've educated you on this, haven't I?
You have given me a sense of enlightenment. I feel that I've learned so much.
It's a great card. It
is a
great card. I mean,
it is a good card.
Has it overshadowed even the main event? I mean, that
was I was going to ask you that. I was going to say to you, I mean, I don't know how it can. How can it?
No, for the boxing purists, people know.
Bivol versus Beterbiev.
Absolutely.
I mean, we are hoping that the boxer formerly known as Deontay Wilder is going to turn up this time round.
I saw a little bit of that, by the way, in the last press conference. I saw a little bit of that edge back. Yeah,
he wasn't doing any kumbaya and
no, there was the love, the peace, the
wasn't
harmony,
listening to Leonard Cohen or whatever it was.
That sort of left his system. Should I say?
Yes, he's now back in the room. Yeah, he's now back in the room.
Yeah, the fighter was back, so it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, you're going off last performance, and he looked totally shot. If I'm totally honest, and I don't think there is a way back. I think the fight had just left him, and we will find out against Zhang Zhang. But it's a fascinating
But it's
fight.
great.
I'm really looking forward to it.
And obviously you can see a lot of excitement, and the format itself creates, because one of the things I think is really fascinating is format creation, and format creation gets you paid. And when you've got a situation now where you can create some sort of tribalism, you've got Queensbury versus Matchroom, and whoever else can get in the mix, whether Wasserman's come in or whether Ben Shalom comes in. If you can create tribalism and team spirit, you've got a different format that you can monetize. Then you can get the North versus the South. You can get the East versus the West.
Nice.
You can get people against people from Essex. Oh, that's Pat. Nobody wants to go anywhere near where Pat goes. But also, it was interesting to hear His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh talking about wanting to bring fight, and I think this is interesting because I think this is really rather good actually, and not to suggest that anything else isn't good as well. That he wants to have fights from the smaller, lighter weight divisions, and when you and I know, because obviously it's very dear to your heart, that when it comes to the economics of fighting, the further down the weight classes you go, the less there seems to be the remuneration and the opportunity for the economics to come into play. Yeah. And so that's a good thing, isn't it?
It's a great thing, you know, that he's not just looking at the heavyweights, which was the worry at first. We thought, is this going to be a heavyweight Super League? Will they will all be fighting each other, and then will they lose interest? But no, I don't think they are. I think that, you know, they're going to go through the weights. They're talking about Crawford, possibly Canelo, you know, getting Nui over there as well, another guy. You know, the smaller guys.
He's earmarking, and he wants to make and he's saying it out loud. And one thing you know that won't be in the way of it is finances, is, you know, Fury versus Joshua, Canelo versus Crawford. If you know Canelo comes through, which I suspect he will do.
Yeah.
And Bivol or Beterbiev versus David Benavidez, who Canelo's avoiding, right?
Yeah, great.
Fair comment.
And listen, they're great fights. So all the above that you just mentioned, they're fantastic fights, and I think that we will see the super fights that we've longed to see. And it's not just guys staying in their own weight divisions as well. For the first time now, we're starting to see guys coming up. You know, guys starting to drop just a little bit. You know, I think it's a fantastic format, and I think that moving forward, it's going to give the boxing fans what they need and what they want, and they've been craving for so many years. I mean, Joshua Fury will happen because Turkey Al-Sheikh will make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. If they all do their jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you see my wonderful interview I did with Callum Smith?
No.
What?
I didn't see it. I looked at a clip somewhere. I think you might have showed me it. I'm sure.
Well, I paid as much attention to the things you told me to ask about Callum Smith as you paid to the video.
Unfortunately, Simon, I haven't had a chance to watch it because I've been so busy.
I think Joe Gallagher's going to be very pleased with what Callum said.
Yeah, I know.
But what we might see out of that is...
He's a good guy though, isn't he?
He's a lovely fellow.
Yeah.
Lovely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of all of the Smiths. You know, whether it's Paul, whether it's Stephen, whether it's Liam, or whether it's Callum, in that order, all of them, you know, coming from a background of boxing, all of them achieving quite remarkable things.
Yeah.
You know, all of them, with the exception of Liam, getting, you know, medals in representing their nation at Commonwealth Games and so on and so forth. But what was interesting from that was that Callum doesn't sound like he's done.
Yeah.
And I think he's done the fighting down the pyramid at domestic level. I don't see him fighting Dan Aziz, with due respect to Dan. But I do see him fighting Anthony Yards.
Yes.
And all that goes with that. And that would be, because he talked about it in great length in this brilliant podcast that I do that you're not included in.
What's it called?
It's called Up Front with Simon Jordan without Spencer
Where do you
Oliver.
get that? Where do you get that? Is it on?
You get it on all of the main channels and wherever you get decent podcasts. So you won't be seeing IFL on there. You won't be seeing any of those other people.
Does it hit this sort of numbers?
Huge numbers.
Really?
Huge numbers.
Okay.
But more important,
that is a great fight, by the way. And I think that is a fight that we will see this year.
Yeah.
I don't think we see it here, maybe over in Saudi, but I definitely think that it happens. Yeah.
But he talked about, the reason why I mentioned Callum is because of
he still has ambition, doesn't he?
Yeah. But the reason why I mentioned Callum, besides plugging shamelessly my own opportunity somewhere else, is because he talked about Beterbiev.
Yeah.
And he talked about the fight. Obviously, he fought Canelo Alvarez, and he basically said I wasn't prepared for that fight, and I wasn't physically. Canelo Alvarez could have been there all week, all month, and he wouldn't have knocked me out.
Yeah.
But I was never going to win that fight because I just wasn't prepared well enough for it, and so on and so forth. But he talks about Beterbiev and the fact that, because I said to him he couldn't cope with his power, and he just said it just wasn't that. I just couldn't keep him off.
Yeah.
That was the issue. He was quicker and stronger.
The accuracy and the strength and the volume. Yeah. So I interviewed him before you'd done that show. Actually, I've actually interviewed him over that before.
Callum.
So I did.
Yeah. He said to me, I had this experience which I was so bored. I had this gormless little nitwit asking me questions I wasn't interested in. So thank God you're here. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano.
Yeah, I love
that for July
20th. Yeah, I love that fight. And it gives, and it
on
also
the Jake
gives,
Paul, Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but it gives the show credibility, and I think that was what was needed. I mean, that is a serious fight. The girls are going to get, you know, career best paydays, and I think it knocks any payday that any female boxer's ever got out of the park. So
and it'll be a great fight.
It's a great fight, and I'm so pleased it's happening. I got Katie Taylor.
Have you?
Yeah, I just think that even at this late stage of her career, she wins again. I just think the size really does matter in that one, and Amanda Serrano really is a featherweight moving up. Katie Taylor is naturally the bigger girl. She's a fully fledged lightweight, now into super lightweight, and that's where the fight lands. And for that reason, I just think that, I think that Katie Taylor wins. I think the weight suits her more than it does Amanda.
Fantastic. Before we go, Andy Ruiz has made it out of the larder.
Yes.
So he's left the pantry, and he's now ready to fight again. He's on the Crawford undercard, right?
Yeah.
About time we saw him back in action. There's been a lot of indexing. He wanted a ridiculous amount of money for a fight, didn't he? That was one of the reasons why the fights didn't happen.
Outpricing himself. Yeah. And you know what? I'm really pleased that he is back. I mean, the guy's been so inconsistent in recent years. I think 2019...
Do you think he's getting sponsored by Ginster's Pies?
Why'd you say that? He's lost loads of weight, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah, he's lost like 3 stone.
Has he been on the Atkins start or something? Oh, fantastic.
No, he's been training.
So my larder comments are...
So he lost to AJ, didn't he, 2019?
Fat shaming is terrible. Never do it.
Right, let's get back to it. Lost to AJ in 2019. He's boxed twice since then, I believe. Since 2019. I mean, the inconsistency is crazy. Good to have him back. And I think that, he's an important part of the heavyweight division right now.
He's had some injuries. I think carrying the food from the kitchen was one of them.
No, he's lost weight. 3
yes,
stones.
I know he's lost it recently.
Maybe 4 stones.
But before than that, he was a Teletubby.
It's been a burner, slow burner.
Good fighter, though.
Good fighter, yeah.
Good fighter.
Very good fighter.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's back, yeah.
So
I'm glad he's in the mix.
One side.
Yeah.
Right, that's it for episode 70 of Talk Boxing, myself and Spencer Robert, and we will see you soon enough.